Well, travel writer Stacey-Wittig, who is known as Unstoppable-Stacey for good reason. She'll walk across the country. She'll walk anywhere. She'll do anything. And she is awesome. Stacey is back on our show today. Today's Second Friday Food, Wine, and Travel show that we do every second Friday, as I was just saying, with the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. And today she's joining us to talk about her amazing adventures in exotic Chiang Mai, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, in Thailand. She spent 3 days there, and in 72 hours, she had lunch in a women's prison. She trekked up mountains to look for elephants, and that's a really good thing about the elephants. We're going to talk about how to be ethical. And she also learned how to plant rice in a water paddy. So I think that's really cool. Her story is up on nationalparktraveling.com right now. You can read it there. Just type in Thailand or Unstoppable Stacey. You'll find it. And it'll also be in the fall issue of Parks and Travel magazine. I do encourage you to go to the website for the company she went through, which is thailandinsider.com, and also to keep up with her at unstoppable-stacey-travel.com. So, Unstoppable Stacey, welcome back. How are you?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. I'm sheltering in place here in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Man. How are you handling it? I know you because you're unstoppable. I mean, are you going out and taking a lot of walks and,
I'm getting out. I live right next to the National Forest, so I'm really blessed to be able to get out and do a lot of walking, as well as I'm doing a lot of writing. So a lot of trips that I've taken in the past, I've written about them when I returned, but hey, there's a lot of backstories that weren't covered at that time. So I'm really kind of reliving my travels, sitting at my computer, going through my photos and writing. And it's been really fun.
Oh, cool. Does that mean another book is in the works? Because Stacey, is also an author. You've written about Santa Fe. I mean, also Walking the Camino. You've written books. Right. So is another one in the works?
Well, I do have one in the works for the Camino de Santiago. However, I'm not working on that currently. So my plan was to actually be in Spain during this time and be working on that book. But you know where we're all at. So I'm not in Spain. And I just thought, I've got so many other things that I've wanted to write about. Like, let's do it. This gives me a good opportunity to really spend some good time writing. So,
well, there you go.
Awesome. Being part of IFTWA, the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association, with this whole pandemic, hasn't it helped to actually to have an organization like in a whole different way? Like when you get to, I know you guys are doing a lot of webinars and connecting with destinations, but in this specific time, isn't this even more important to belong to an organization? And have that communication with everybody.
Right, I totally agree with you, Lisa. It almost brings tears to my eyes to hear you say that, because just having the camaraderie with other travel writers that know what it's like to be quarantined. We're doing Zoom calls together. We're doing webinars with destinations like you talked. Also on Facebook, we're very supportive of each other in social media. So it really has been so nice to hang out with travel writers, even though, we can't be together physically.
That's cool. That is cool. I love following you all on social media, and especially on Twitter. Everybody, the hashtag IFWTWA. I mean, you go around the world, and all these Zoom calls and webinars you're doing with the destinations, you're keeping us all up to date with what's open, where we can go if you're traveling. So I think it's really cool what's going on and how IFTWA's kind of rallied that. But is it Chiang Mai? Am I saying this correctly?
Well, we're not from Thailand, so neither one of us is probably going to say it correctly. But I call it Chiang Mai.
Chiang Mai.
So Chiang Mai. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
so that's
it's known as the land
for my
of
American
smiles.
tongue.
Oh, we're allowed to be the land of smiles, and so this is cool. I didn't know that.
Right. So they've been known as the land of smiles for probably decades, and it's one of the reasons that I really love going to Thailand is because the people are so happy to have us there. And so you've probably traveled to places where people aren't so happy to have tourists there, either because of over tourism or whatever, right? So it is like a really nice place to go. Europeans have been going there for 100 years. So
Wow, that's and yet they're smiling, and we've never been there. Nancy and I've never been there, and but we're very interested in the elephants, and I remember seeing the photos when you were there, and we've done so many shows on the issues that elephants, especially Myanmar issues, Africa, and talked about India a little bit, but Thailand is kind of a new thing. And whenever we see tourism and animals, we okay. We have friends in wildlife conservation. We call up and say, "Is this place okay? Is this okay?" Because it's very difficult to know.
Yes.
There's actually a worldwide sanctuary website you can go to know if it's a real sanctuary or is it a fake sanctuary that's really a zoo. Are they breeding? Are they doing things? So when I saw you with the elephants, the first thing I was like, okay, I know Stacey's, you're into sustainability and having met you too, I knew that. And so this was something very ethical and good, right? What you went and experienced.
And that is so great that you have that world organization that you can go to and double check. When I was in Thailand, I was able to meet with another World Animal Protection is what they call themselves. And they really filled me in on why it's so important for travelers to take a look at the humane treatment of the elephants, the kind of experience they're going to have with the elephants, and why it's so important for us to know that. So here, I do a lot of traveling in Europe, so I'm not that familiar with the elephant thing. But when I got there, one of the things that organization wants to do is educate people. And so they really educated me. I really got a really good understanding. And then, I'm able to write about it. So educating other visitors.
This is really cool. And
that's important.
And you're not out there, playing selfie as much. It's not that, you've got a photo of you right near an elephant, but you're not doing that.
Right.
Let me get on the elephant. They gave you some rules from what I was reading in your article.
Exactly. So if people read my article, though, it's pretty detailed.
And if you don't read it, we're going to come out and get you.
Right. The place I visited is called Chiang-Mai, and they have private land that they, let animals live in the wild. So the whole kind of concept behind this is let elephants be elephants. So don't have an elephant show. Don't go and wash the elephants. Don't go and touch the elephants. The elephants are in their wild area. They're eating because elephants really need to eat a lot.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So, that's one of the hard things is finding food for elephants too. But it's not just hay where they're chained up. And then you're going to come in and watch them perform, or you're going to maybe even take them down to the water and wash them. Well, what this organization says is, no, the animals' activities don't stop because the tourists come. The animal keeps, living its life, and you as a visitor, if you're lucky, you might see one. And so that was my episode of walking through these mountain forests. And, of course, we figured we were going to see some. But there was that kind of element of, what if we don't? We're walking and we're looking to see these elephants feeding in the forest. So the walking part, the hiking part was right up my alley. And then when we had a guide with us, and she was a naturalist, and she would, give us information about the elephants, and that we would see them with their handlers, which they call mahouts. So all the elephants, and this was my understanding. So sometimes I'm not sure I got the whole thing, but from what I understand is the mahouts that were handling these elephants owned the elephants, or maybe their families owned the elephants. So they had a very special connection. So they did not use the bull hooks, to push elephants around. They just kind of hung out with them, and made sure we didn't get close. So the picture that that you have, that you've posted shows me in front of the elephant, but really I'm probably, I don't know, a third of a block away. And that's as close as we really got out in the forest.
Isn't that because they used to own them because they did a long time ago use them for like harvesting wood and things like that? And so then, isn't that good? It's kind of similar to Myanmar. Our friend Adam Roberts, who's on our show for years when he was in wildlife conservation, now he's in businesses being sustainable and helping them become, green businesses.
Wow.
Very cool guy. And he worked with an organization, the Elephant Project, and went to Myanmar where they work with the governments and the community to get together. So it's kind of a similar story. And of course, Myanmar has drama going on, political drama. And there's also, you've got to think about, there was bombs being, that are still buried in Burma and all that kind of stuff. But it's like they owned them for like as livestock years ago, and some people in some countries still do, and just kind of how I remember it. And Nancy, please, you tell me if I'm wrong, but then they kind of own them, and it's like these organizations will come in, raise funds to work with them to kind of let the animal enjoy its life, but you're going to harvest wood in a different way, and they're going to fund the people with the elephants. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so they're not.
A lot of education and showing them how to be sustainable, because when they were using elephants to take down the forest, they're, all of a sudden, where's your forest? It becomes a real problem on not just from the animal side, but also what are you doing to your countryside here? You can't just take all the time. So you need to, so there's a lot of education that has to happen before you can change somebody's culture, a lot. But
well,
and funding them through the process. So this is interesting.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Interesting, in Thailand, they outlawed using elephants for logging back in 1989. And so, of course, the India or Asian elephants have been domesticated for, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of years, and they've been used, like horses or camels. So now in 1989, they had this overabundance of elephants that were trained to do logging, and now they had nothing to do. And the people who owned them needed to feed them. So how difficult that would be. Now they don't have their source of income, and they're trying to feed their animals. A lot of those animals, from what I understand, went into the tourism trade, and not all of them were treated well in the tourism trade. So that's what we're here to talk about, right? Like, if we don't support, if we don't go to the places that have inhumane practices, then those people will end up changing, right? So because they want the tourists to come, they want the tourists to be safe, but
they want money.
Right.
They want to make money at it, and if it's not making money, they're going to have to make a change. So if people don't go to places that are, not ethical with how they treat the animals, then that practice will eventually die out.
Well, TripAdvisor, with enough people doing petitions, stopped promoting elephant rides on their website. So
nice.
there is which I think is fantastic, and I hope they do it with swimming with the dolphins and all of those practices too, because it's like people think, it's really cute to take a photo with a baby tiger or lion in South Africa, right? Not the tigers in South Africa, the lion in South Africa, but they don't know that they're being bred for that reason. And so it's really important, and I think I really commend you writing this, Stacey, because I think it's really important that as writers that we look at what is our footprint and what are we putting out there as our message.
Exactly.
And I know when we met in Yuma, Arizona, when you came to the Yuma Bird Nature History Festival, we met in the lobby at the Coronado Motor Hotel, you and Elaine.
Right.
We were talking about, Elaine Masters, all about, footprints. She came in on a Greyhound bus, and you were talking. Everybody was like, "What can we do as writers to have a very, this is why we travel full time. We don't have to keep going home. Because why do that? So when we don't have to with our lifestyle, so it's kind of everybody has a different thing, and I think it's important that we be responsible as writers and what we're doing, and photographers. What are you photographing and saying is cool? You got to be careful,
Right.
And just because something is part of culture doesn't mean it's right. And that it should say part of culture. Cultures have changed over hundreds of years because not only did they have inhumane practices for animals, they also had some pretty inhumane practices with people, especially women. So sometimes it's really good for cultures to have to change. So I think it's when you're visiting other places, to stay away from something that is promoting a practice that you feel is wrong makes every bit of sense.
Right. And I was so impressed with the World Animal Protection people that I met at Chiang-Mai, and I was so impressed with Chiang-Mai on it's really kind of a whole new business model that they hope to roll out, through other parts of Thailand and probably throughout the world too. But yes, they were working with the culture, and they were working, like I said, the owners. And one thing I would like to put out there is, because tourism is so down right now, that they have a FundMe site. So you can go to, Chiang-Mai website and help feed the elephants. So they're, they're asking for money to help with food and that sort of thing. So
that's cool. It's important. Now, elephants. Okay, we want to talk about the resort, but and we want to know about you going farming in the rice paddies. That's cool. But what, lunch in a women's prison? Whoa! We've been to historic prisons without the inmates, but this was a little different.
Right. And so here, this is another really beautiful way to immerse in the culture and also give back, right? So when you spend your money at a restaurant, or you spend your money, wherever as a tourist, it's always kind of nice to know that it's going right back to either the creator of the product that you're buying, or in this case, that you're helping fund the prison. So a lot of these women are being educated on, okay, what's going to happen once they get out of prison. And so in this particular restaurant that I went to, it's part of the prison, and they're being trained to be servers. And I'm sure there was probably people in the back that were being trained to do all parts of that kind of hospitality industry. So here in Flagstaff, excuse me, we have a university that teaches that. Well, how cool is it that in Thailand, they're getting this education, and we can kind of help with it by going and being served by the inmates. And the restaurant was very lovely. So it wasn't like I was in the prison. I mean, I was in the prison area.
Unstoppable-Stacey gets put in prison.
Right. So it was very cheery and lots of flowers and beautiful. I mean, that's the great thing about Thailand and being in a place that you're not used to. Every tree is new. Every flower is new.
Yeah.
It's, and the big windows looking out. So it's a very cheery place, which is nice. And then the other opportunity that you have is to go have a massage in the prison. So I wasn't able to do that, but I kind of picture it like, I think you have to go through security. So
So you weren't behind bars with a silver cup, saying, "Where's my wine? Where's my wine?"
Right.
Well, but I love this because it's education, and that's what makes a change, positive change. We were
Right.
recently met with a lady who's retired from being a corrections officer, and
Mm-hmm.
she's very cool. She's a bed and breakfast owner, and we had a lot of wine with her, and we swapped stories about that kind of thing, and she talked
Wow.
about how everything is about education, and you can't just go,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is an alcoholic drug addict, they're screwed up, and that's that. It's about actual
No.
mental health programs. It is about education. And so she was one of those kind of officers that if somebody slipped up that she was working with, not it's a parole officer, not corrections. I got to get that straight. I think,
Okay.
but she does all
Okay.
of that. Yeah, parole, not corrections. And
So
she,
parole officer, yeah.
if someone screwed up, she would turn around and go, okay, let's get you back on track. And she said, because none of us are perfect, and it was really about putting them into school, getting them into the right, those kind of programs. So this is very exciting to hear, and I think the more we have of that, the better. And I love the empowerment of women. That's the other
Right.
thing. You wonder about half of the women that go to prison are probably stood up to some horrible man that was like a man that was horrible. Not that every man is horrible, but somebody, you know what I mean? Or they ended up in drugs
Right.
or prostitution or something out of necessity. A lot of times women, it's out of necessity. There are
Sure.
some serious ones, but that's I think that's super cool. Now, getting in the rice paddy. Now,
Yes.
that's you got in a paddy. Like that's got to be fun though to understand.
It
Yeah.
it was really fun. So I was at this magnificent resort,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
one of the great things why I call it magnificent was because it took a lot of the local culture and history, the architecture from the area, but then it was just a touch of that. It was a very modern facility, but they have these immersion experiences where we were able to. One of them was go into a rice paddy and really kind of see how difficult work that is.
Mm.
And of course, we had a really fun time doing it. One that night when I came into my room, there was a traditional Thai outfit laid out for me, like a worker out in cotton. And so the next morning I was able to dress up in that and then meet down with the other people that were going to participate in this. And it was really a joyful experience because number one, I'd never done anything like that before, right? So we put on these tall rubber boots. We go out into this mucky, rice paddy, and it's really kind of mucky underneath, but you've got the rubber boots on, so like it's no problem. And you take a little sprout of this, well, it isn't too little. It's probably 12 inches long of a rice plant and maybe 3 inches of root. And you hold it around the plant part, and you use your thumb as kind of the hoe to push into the muck, and then your thumb helps those roots get in. And then you kind of tap it in there a little bit, and of course the muck goes right around it, and the rice plant sticks straight up, and you feel like, wow, I've really accomplished something. I've never done this before. So I wrote that I felt like I was at summer camp again, because at summer camp you do these things you've never done before, and you're with a bunch of girls, and it's really fun, and
That's
so
cool.
it was a joyful time. Yes,
That's fun.
That is cool. Yeah. Whenever you can get hands on when you travel to
Mm-hmm.
have a better understanding, there's nothing like that, and that's really cool. You did that even with the elephants, feeding them and not feeding them. You didn't touch them feeding them, but
right.
putting food in their vitamin balls made,
Yes.
made the vitamin balls. But what about the food? Because it sounds like you really like Thai food. That's one of your
Oh
things.
yes. Yes. So I I totally love Thai food. You know, when we go to Thai restaurants here in the U.S., we can order hot or mild or whatever, and I'm one of those hot people. I like things hot. Thai food is there's so many layers of taste. So when you taste something, you know, there's, you know, the just like lemon, you might taste a little lemon or lemongrass, and then you get, you know, the noodle taste, and then the spice kind of comes in afterwards. But I just totally love the layeredness of fresh Thai food. So it was so nice to get back and eat. You know, there's lots of authentic Thai food here in the U.S., but to be in Thailand and, you know, eat such fresh food, it was amazing. And the resort that we stayed at, the Veranda, Chiang Mai, has really excellent food and excellent chefs. I met with one of the gals that cooks there, and she helped us make alms for the monks at the Buddhist temple that we went to, and were able to give alms to the monks, which, you know, was food. So she actually taught us how to wrap rice in banana leaves, and I didn't do it very well, but hey, it was the first time. So but
That's
it was
neat.
Yeah, it was so cool. And so that one of the things that we did at skipping around here, sorry, but their breakfast buffet was phenomenal. I tasted all these fruits that I had never tasted before, so exotic fruits, and really authentic. I would go for the authentic Thai food. Of course, at the buffet, you could eat Chinese because they have a lot of Chinese visitors as well, or you could eat like more of a European breakfast, but I always went for the Thai. It was amazing. So that's where I jumped to when I was thinking of their food. But then back to, we had dinner in a tree house.
That is so cool. Talk about magical.
Isn't that cool? So here we're like out of the city. There's mountains around us. You can hear the birds. And now we're like climbing up into this tree house, which used to be some kind of rice shack. So, you know, typically it would sit, you know, on the ground, but because it was probably 100 or 200 years old, it was, you know, very authentic, but they put it up in the trees with all these lights sweeping around and candles on the table and pouring wine and just, fabulous, you know, unforgettable, really meal. Yeah.
Oh my,
cool.
That sounds magical. And then you've got that resort that you're in where you're in these, you know, the waterfalls and pools. Like it sounds, I don't know, like a tropical paradise. It really does.
Really, really was. It really was. And it was so relaxing too, because it wasn't a resort where there were a lot of people coming in and out. It was, we had, like, I want to say kind of cabanas, but the resort was spread out over like 10 acres. And so, you know, different walkways. In every walkway, you felt like you were in a garden, and you would see like women, I don't know, tending the gardens. And of course, it was hot there, and so they would have those big sun hats on. It was just, again, magical. It was a beautiful place.
Cool.
Oh man,
very cool.
Am I allowed to be jealous? We just have to go. See, this sounds like a way to do the Love Your Parks tour. Just go to Thailand, you know. But I think, you know, it's I'm hoping, you know, this whole COVID thing goes away so everyone can get back to normal, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of it's sad. Are you planning any and getting there? That's one thing I wanted to just before we move on here. This was a 72-hour trip, right? So getting there and getting to the airport, what was that part like? Because it sounds worth it to me, even if it was just 72 hours.
Well, and really, we were 72 hours in Chiang Mai and then went down to Bangkok.
Okay.
And then after that, went down to Krabi. and that was the beach part of Thailand. So a lot of people, when they think of Thailand, and the beautiful emerald waters and the huge monolithic rocks sticking way up high out of the water. And so, we spent time in Thailand, but only the 72 hours in Chiang Mai. So, but
man.
getting there. So this was pretty cool. There is a direct flight from LAX to Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong, then we got a plane straight to Chiang Mai. So I really like that. I'm from a small town, so for me, I kind of like the smaller airports.
Yeah.
They're more convenient. I feel more comfortable. And the airport at Chiang Mai is really pretty close to the downtown historic center of Chiang Mai, much like any smaller airport that you would fly into. Whereas when you fly into Bangkok, then you drive through the city for a long time before you get to your destination or the city center.
I'm with you on
that's
the
a little
smaller
tip, but insider
yeah,
tip.
me too.
Yeah. And your other tip, you said you got a SIM card for your phone right there. And so,
Right.
yeah, you're saying that's a good tip to do. So you do that once you're there, not beforehand.
Correct. Because the SIM card is for each country. So once I landed in Thailand, one of the things I found is that it's so much easier to buy it at the airport because people typically speak English at the airport as well as like 5 or 6 other languages. And they can help me put it in my phone so they know they're familiar with all these different phones. Whereas in the past, I would, make it to my hotel or whatever and then try to run around town and find a place that I could get it and, just,
yeah,
not
is a good
not
tip.
as good. So that's a tip. Yeah, get it in the airport, whatever airport you're flying into.
Last thing I want to do is play with my phone. I'll probably throw it in the toilet. Enough of that. Just flush it down. No, you don't want to do that. We all need our phone, but it sounds like a really cool adventure. And I really love the whole part about the conservation of the elephants. I think that was just really special. So where do you think is next for you?
Well, it's so controversial about traveling right now that I'm torn because my job, I feel right now more than ever, is to get people comfortable to travel again. Of course, they have to be safe when they travel.
Right.
But there's ways that you can find out about the safety, right? So one of the things that I just put up on my blog was what to expect at a hotel visit. So right now, a lot of us haven't been to a hotel. So how is this going to be different? And I'll tell you, because I did my first hotel visit 2 weeks ago, it was way different. So lots of safety measures, lots of things that, just are so different. And so I thought, well, this is good. This is a way to encourage people to try it if they're thinking about it. But I really feel more than ever that I need to help people in the travel industry get back to their jobs. So many of our unemployed people right now are in the hospitality industries, whether it's restaurants, hotels, tour operators, whatever, right? And so I really, I feel like as a travel writer, I can do something about that. I can encourage people to travel. We can't travel everywhere, but there's places that people can travel safely to.
Yeah,
and
I agree, and it is do what you can, just even for peace of mind, because you can't stay boxed in
right.
long, that long. But we've stayed at bed and breakfast. We've stayed at a couple hotels. We're going to go to a hotel, Springs in a few hours. We're off driving there, and
I'm so excited.
you have to ask. You look on their website. What are they doing? And talk to them. And everybody's, there's sanitizer before you get in the hotel. There's all kinds of things that people are doing. And I mean, we're full-time travelers. We can't just stop. We had to.
Mhm.
In 29 Palms at our friends, she thought, come here for 2 weeks. We're like, how about 2 months? Thanks for
Right.
having us, but it's a good thing she's a good friend. And, but then traveling
Yes.
again, you have your disinfectants, your hand sanitizers, your soap. I mean, we have our own soap and everything.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
wear your mask and, like there's masks and then like what I have is a, what do you call it? Like a hooraggy thing that goes over your mouth, and
Oh
you
yeah.
wear it. Yeah. And then you can wash it very easily. You can
Mhm.
just hand wash it, which is easy. And, so that's kind of, there's just things you can do. And,
Well, yeah. If
this,
you comply, if everybody would
hmm
just comply, this whole thing would go away a lot quicker.
yeah,
Yes.
You know. So I
yeah.
mean, it's
Yes.
common sense.
And takeout from the restaurants is not a bad thing. You go in a park and you watch the birds and you hide your food from the squirrel. Because you're not
Sometimes.
supposed to feed them,
Yeah, sometimes.
But so
Yeah.
there are things to do, and I love what you're doing, Stacey. It's always such a pleasure to chat with you, and you're always so positive,
You
and
too.
yeah, she's unstoppable. Yeah, I love that. But everyone,
Thank you.
again, keep up with Stacey. Follow her on Instagram and Twitter. It's unstoppable-Stacey-Travel.com is her website, so follow her stories there. Also, look her up on Amazon for her books as well, especially if you're going to Santa Fe or doing the Santiago. Is it? Am I saying it right? The Camino de
Yes.
Santiago.
You
Okay.
got it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. That sounds good.
Mhm.
And then for
I
Thailand,
miss
the
it.
adventures uh, ThailandInsider.com is that website as well. But her article is up on nationalparktraveling.com. Just type in Thailand or Stacy and you'll find it on there. But and of course, we got to give a shout out to our friends over at the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association. If you're a photographer, writer, blogger, or an actual destination or a tour operator, anybody in the industry, check out ifwtwa.org. They're really an awesome group. And yeah, we
Yes.
love our second Friday shows. You never know where we're going. I mean, we went to
This is true.
Washington State, we went to Southern California and Thailand, and a little bit of Arizona because you're there.
Isn't
Right
that
on.
fun? Yes.
I know. I know. It's cool. Well, thanks so much. And listen, you stay safe and get out there as much as you can
And you
and as
too, Lisa
safely.
and Nancy.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye bye.
Take Bye bye. I want to go play with elephants and just watch them
Me
and,
too.
do whatever I can
Yeah.
to help them. That is so awesome. We want to thank everyone for joining us today. Jenny Wedge, Amy over in the San Juan Islands. I mean, it's just been a great show. Stacy for joining us again. Our friends over at the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association. We'll be back on Sunday. We have a segment that we recorded with Linda Kassam, the food wine shopping diva. She's the president of the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association, and she's out in Washington State now, and she visited Earth Sanctuary, and this is a really beautiful nature and spiritual retreat. So you'll hear her interview along with Chuck Pettis, who is the founder of Earth Sanctuary. And that is a special place. And Earth Sanctuary is on Whidbey Island, very close to the San Juans that we were talking about. So that is Sunday, July 12th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. You can listen to our shows as they go live or broadcast live or anytime later on demand. Just go to bigblendradio.com. We hope you all have a fabulous weekend. And on that note, we're off to Hot Springs, Arkansas. We say goodbye and thank you to Lubbock, Texas, and to Cusco, the coolest cat on the planet
Coolest
that we've
creeper
been
cat.
babysitting. Yeah, Cusco came to say goodbye, right? As the show goes to end here, she's like, "This is my show, man. I'm telling you." But we're gonna close off with a song called "Fabulous Day." It's by Patty Thompson. You can hear her interview about her album on BlendRadioandTV.com. But here it is, "Fabulous Day." Take care, everybody.
night. So many drinks, too many tears, all those wasted